Once upon a time, there was a nobody country between the United States and the Arctic. Today, it's one of the largest countries in the world. It has more lakes than any other country, the longest coastline on Earth, 2 official languages, and 1 very long hockey season. This is Canada, but this is not the America you think you know. Welcome to my channel. The first Europeans to set foot on Canada were the French. They established a settlement in Newfoundland in 1623, but it was short-lived. Luckily for them, they didn't stick around long enough to meet Chief Donnacona, a warrior known for his rather extreme approach to diplomacy. He once kidnapped and then cannibalized a rival chief, an event which inspired Sir Francis Drake to name the area New France. Ironically, the British would later change this to Canada. Ironic because Canada today is the world leader in ironic place names. I mean, look at this one. You can also see why they went with Canada. Now, while France had briefly explored further inland, their colony was limited to the coastal regions of what's now Atlantic Canada. That would all change when Samuel de Champlain paddled around in his little boat in 1615. We can't have a video about Canada without mentioning that. In fact, I'll say it again for the people who skipped ahead. Samuel de Champlain paddled around in his little boat in 1615. He sailed into the Gulf of St. Lawrence and then up the Ottawa River to what's now Ontario. Here he raised the French flag, claimed the land for the French, and promptly got lost. Luckily, he found his way back to Quebec before freezing to death. And as a reward for surviving the winter, he got to find out what an igloo is actually called. Turns out it's spelled I-G-Loo, not igloo. Who knew? Champlain returned to France to tell everyone about how great New Canada was, and to recruit people to go there and live. Many people accepted, including a guy named Paul Lejeune, who wrote a book about his experience. Called The Jesuit Relations, and it's where we get the classic Canadian myth of the Huron people helping the French survive the winter by showing them how to live in an igloo, aka Equaloo. Now, of course, there's some debate over whether or not the story is accurate, but it's important to remember that this was written in the 17th century, when Europeans knew about as much about North America as we do about what's going on in Florida. Samuel de Champlain didn't just discover Canada, he also discovered the United States, which is why Americans celebrate his birthday every year. Except they don't. They celebrate Christopher Columbus Day instead, which is kind of weird because Columbus never went that far north. He got as far as this island right here, which is why it's named after him. But hey, if you want to learn more about Christopher Columbus, you can watch my video about him, which I'll link down below. As the years passed, New France grew. In 1663, King Louis XIV gave the territory to the French East India Company to encourage colonization. It worked, sort of. By 1700, there were only about 4,000 French Canadians living in Canada. Most of the population were still indigenous peoples. Then came the 7 Years' War, which pitted Britain and Prussia against France and its allies. The war started in Europe, but soon spread to the colonies where it became known as the French and Indian War. The British were led by the famous General James Wolfe, while the French were led by the Marquis de Montcalm. They met up at the Battle of the Plains of Abraham in 1759, which ended in a decisive British victory. Both generals were killed in the battle, and the city of Quebec fell to the British shortly after. As part of the Treaty of Paris, France gave up all claims to Canada in 1763. Britain now controlled all of the land from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific, except for a tiny slice of it called the United States. The American Revolution was still ongoing when Canada was transferred to Britain, so at first it seemed like the two might share a border. But then the United States stopped being a part of Britain and decided to stay south of the Great Lakes. Everyone was happy with this arrangement except for the Americans who wanted Canada too. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 outlined how new states could be admitted to the Union. But since the US didn't control Canada, it couldn't apply. This led to decades of failed attempts to invade and take it by force. Just kidding. It only happened once. But that one time was pretty embarrassing for the United States, so let's move on. Canada began to grow, as Britain continued to move people there to avoid overcrowding in the original 13 colonies. This caused tensions with the United States, which fueled expansion into Oregon country. Remember the earlier example of the Northwest Ordinance? Well, both Britain and the US applied that same logic to this region, leading to the Oregon boundary dispute. Eventually, the issue was settled during the negotiations of the Columbia River Treaty in 1846, where the United States got all of this and Canada got all of this. It was around this time that Canada really started taking shape. In 1841, the areas of Upper Canada and Lower Canada were united and renamed the Province of Canada. In 1867, it was split into 3 provinces, Ontario, Quebec, and Nova Scotia, along with Vancouver Island and the Hudson's Bay Territory. This act is considered Canadian Confederation Day. Every year on July, Canadians celebrate by setting off fireworks, setting off bottle rockets, setting off mini bottle rockets, and setting off small child-sized bottle rockets. In 1896, the Yukon was added as well as the Northwest Territories in 1905. Then, in 1949, Newfoundland joined as the 10th province. This brought the country together as one cohesive whole. The country of Canada. So, let's fast forward from 1949 to 2025 and see what's changed. First things first, Justin Trudeau isn't Prime Minister anymore. As of 2023, he was replaced by this woman, but she hasn't done anything yet. Let me show you around. Canada today is the second largest country in the world, spanning roughly 10 million square kilometers. Only Russia is bigger, but half of Russia is in Asia. So if you want to talk about contiguous landmass, Canada wins. Canada also has the longest coastline on Earth, clocking in at 202,782 kilometers. To put that into perspective, the entire eastern coastline of the contiguous United States is only 54,549 kilometers. Canada has more lakes than any other country too, with over 2 million. There are over 200,000 lakes in Finland. Russia has 200,000 lakes, but they're mostly frozen over. Canada has 2 official languages, but according to this guy, it really only has 1 official language. While English is spoken by the vast majority of Canadians, French is still an official language, and many Canadians speak it as their primary language. Canada is home to 38 million Canadians. That makes it the 37th most populous country in the world, ahead of Iran, behind Saudi Arabia. About 34% of Canadians live in Ontario, which is the most populous province. Canada has a strong economy thanks to its abundant natural resources, educated workforce, and high quality of life. With a GDP of 2 trillion Canadian dollars, it ranks as the 17th largest economy in the world, tied with Spain. Like most developed countries, Canada has an aging population, low fertility rates, and increasing life expectancy. Over half of Canadians are working age, which helps support the country's social safety net programs for those who aren't. Canada is often ranked as one of the best countries in the world to live in thanks to its healthcare system, quality of life, and standard of living. Some of the downsides include the cold climate, high taxes, and expensive housing. If I had to sum up Canada in a single word, it would be eh. No, that's 2 words. Well, in that case, I guess it would be Moose Jaw. Get it? Because Moose Jaw, Canada is called the Friendly City. Eh? Sorry, I'll stop. And that's the untold story of Canada from beginning to end. How it was created and what it is like in 2025. If you want to know what will happen in 2025, you'll have to wait until next year when I make that video. But until then, I've got a ton more videos about countries and geography coming your way. So be sure to subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.